Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us for this very special edition of Friday SLO Talks. Today's discussion is going to be quite different. Instead of hearing from faculty or administrators, we are going to hear from the different type of our experts. We are going to hear from students who have gone through our educational system or they are about to be done, and we are going to be talking about the aspect of education, of higher education, that matters most, which is learning itself. Our panelists will reflect on what learning means to them, how they recognize it in their own experience, and how colleges and universities might better assess and support learning itself. We'll explore what evidence of learning looks like from the student perspective, not in abstract forms, but in concrete ways students show what they can do. Each of our student panelists will begin with briefly introducing themselves, and then we'll move on into a series of questions that focus on how learning is defined, demonstrated, and recognized in higher education. As faculty and colleagues, we should listen closely because these insights can actually help us re-examine our own practices and see learning not as a number or a grade, but as observable change in behavior that grows over time. So thank you very much for joining us. With that, I would like to start with the introduction. So yes, Emily, we'll start with you.
Hi, my name is Emily Killen, and I am in Fort Worth, Texas. I am an EDD student with Dr. Bonk through the University of Indiana, or Indiana University. And I, by day, am an instructional technologist. I have a background in early childhood education and special education as well.
Thank you very much. And Christy, if you could please.
Hi, everyone. My name is Christy Young. I also am a student of Dr. Bonk. He is my dissertation chair, and that is what we're working on currently. I am from Vicksburg, Michigan, teach in Dowagiac, Michigan at a community college. So this talk is interesting to me on several different levels, not only as a student myself, but also as a community college professor.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Christy. And Leah, if you could please go next.
Hi, everyone. I'm Leah Chang. I'm dialing in from Toronto, Canada. I'm currently a second-year student studying political science and sociology at the University of Toronto, so happy to be here with you today.
Thank you very much. And let's go with Samantha, please.
Hi everyone, my name is Sam and I am a recent MSW graduate from UCLA with a background in psychology, history, and medicine. And I am dialing in today from San Diego, California. I'm really excited to be here today, not only as a previous learner, but also someone who hopes to get my PhD one day and also become an instructor.
Right on. Thank you. Thank you so much, Samantha. And last but not least, certainly, Bo, please.
Yeah, my name is Bo Scott. I'm actually one of Dr. Bonk's doctoral students as well. And I'm actually calling in from West Lafayette, Indiana, which is where Purdue is. Dr. Bonk likes to give me some grief about that every now and then, as it's Indiana University's rival school here. My background, originally an elementary education teacher, and currently working now as a executive director for customer success for an AI ed tech company called MathLab.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Bo. And now we didn't get that on the recording yet. So if you don't mind, Dr. Bonk and Enrique, if you could please introduce yourself one more time, just for the recording. Oh yes, yes, yes. I'm right there.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Enrique Jauregui. I am the SLO coordinator for Fresno City College, located in the Central Valley of California. Welcome all.
Thank you, Enrique.
And I'm unmuted now. My name is Kurt Bonk at Indiana University in Bloomington, lovely Bloomington, Indiana today. The leaves are starting to fall off the trees. Come visit us. I'm in instructional systems technology and as well as educational psychology here for my 34th year. I started when I was 8.
Excellent. Good morning. And let's, without any further ado, let's get our conversations started. Thank you so much for joining us again. Question number 1 for our panelists, defining learning. Let's start with that. Let's start with the definition. Every student's idea of learning is shaped by years spent in classrooms with different teachers and different teaching styles. We know this, right? We experience that. Some educators emphasize memorization while others focus on projects, discussion, practical application, but all claim to be helping students learn. Yet, in an educational system that often measures progress through grades and tests, it's worth asking what learning really looks like in action. Based on your experiences in graduate school and earlier, how would you personally define learning? We can start with Bo. I'm sure he has something to say on the topic. We started with Emily, now it's Bo, yes.
Even people up in Purdue land knows something about learning.
There we go. Yeah, even up at Purdue, we know a little bit about it. I think one of the ways that I would define learning is being slightly less wrong each day, and part of this is remaining curious and learning to refine your questions a little bit more to better understand the world around you. One of the things I've really taken away from my time in higher ed at Indiana has been just the encouragement to creatively ask questions, and that's definitely been one of my defining factors in what learning looks like.
Excellent, thank you so much. And Emily, if you could please follow up.
Yeah, to add on to what Bo was saying, I think definitely trying different things, being curious, but I think it's also a process of learning and acquiring new knowledge and skills through everyday life. And it's not always linear. I think a lot of times, especially in K-12 education, it looks very linear. But in higher ed, it's not necessarily a straight line. You're going to go up and down and learn through real life experiences and challenging different things and thinking outside of the box.
That's very, very interesting comment, this linear concept of education. So in K-12, it's more linear than it is in higher ed. Yes, that's very revealing. Thank you so much. Leah, would you please follow up on this?
Yes, absolutely. I'm 17 years old, so I'm looking forward to whatever higher education brings me. To me, I think learning it's more than just memorization. I think it's critically engaging with ideas. And especially for me, I do a lot of work in human rights advocacy and youth empowerment. And so I think it has a lot to do with connecting theory to lived realities and applying sort of the abstract concepts or the theories that people came up with hundreds of years ago to real world context. And I think it's also about sort of questioning your own values and how you see the world and understanding why something matters and how it can be criticized and improved for future generations and not just learning about what it is.
That's right. Thank you very much. It's learning, not talking about learning. Christy, you're next, please.
Yeah, so I was thinking, especially after just hearing Leah say she's 17 years of age, how much my learning has evolved through my tenure as a student. Mastery, grades was very important to me as an undergrad, but I quickly figured out as I started within, teaching myself and then coming back to education that it's not just that, it's constructing meaning. And a lot of time that meaning comes from reflection and interaction. One of the things that I loved about Dr. Bonk's classes is he always allowed the option of doing a group project. And I felt I got the most out of that because I was able to not only reflect on what I was doing, but also interact with a cohort, a small cohort or a peer, and to actually get more out of it.
Thank you. And Samantha?
She might be muted, I think.
Sorry,
Yep.
thank you. I needed the permission to speak. So I would define learning as the process that unfolds when a person finds a way to engage with something they didn't initially know how to approach. So for me, it's that feeling I get when I truly start hearing what a person is telling me. And it's that moment when curiosity replaces assumption and connection replaces distance. For me, it's definitely more than just knowing, it's kind of transforming the way we think or do things. That's also why it's so important for educators to cultivate an environment where students want to listen and be part of this process, an environment where they feel interested and open to what you're trying to say.
Right. Excellent points. Anyone in the audience, if you would like to raise your hand and ask a question of the panelists, please don't hesitate to do so. With that, Enrique, Kurt, any questions for our panelists? I think this is very insightful. Go ahead.
Enrique's got a question listed already, but I really like Samantha's comment, connection replaces distance, or I think that's what you said. And in today's age, since COVID, we've had a lot of distance forms of learning going on. So how do we build those connections, I guess is important to explore, because this isn't going away anytime soon in terms of blended learning, fully online period right now. How do we create connections right now between and amongst us? Well, we met a little early, got to know each other a little bit, and got to talk to each other and find out about each other, mutual interests and things like that. So the social connections lead to the group activities that Christy talks about, the real world activities that a couple of you mentioned, the challenges that we can overcome. So, it's a mix of learning principles at play when we have effective, engaging, interactive, rich learning experiences today, those being digital learning experiences. But I'm curious of what the panelists think about connections replacing or not replacing distance, but making it less challenging, right? Does anyone have a comment about that, about her point about connections?
I see that Bo raised his hand. He was first.
Yeah, I'm just gonna reiterate the connection, the social aspect of this. I just reflecting on my time here at IU. One of the things that I recognized was the first year that I was in the program. I felt like I really was kind of just going through the motions of being a student. Because the entire program is structured in an online format so that anybody in the world can participate in this. But what ended up transpiring was in my second year, I did develop a great connection with one of the individuals in my class. And it was actually Dr. Bonk's TA that semester. And he and I have remained quite close friends ever since. And that also kind of led into developing, an opportunity to make stronger connections with other students like Emily and Christy in the program as well. And I can't even begin to tell you how meaningful just the opportunity to connect and to learn from other like-minded individuals who were just enthralled with the idea of pursuing education for the sake of learning and the love of learning. That meant the world to me, and that really I think it really just made my experience as a student in higher ed that much stronger. So I think that is a huge point that the Dr. Bonk made there.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And I see that Gary has a question. He's from a member of the audience. Please, Gary, would you like to articulate your point? Oh, you need to be unmuted too, right?
Thank you.
Oh, yes, sorry.
So I guess to the panelists and even to others is, if we go back and just think about how learning was defined, did you notice how often the word learning was used to define learning? And I think that we attempt to focus on learning, And to what extent are we failing to actually focus on learning when we realize that what we do is we instantly diffuse to the process of learning? Learning is defined as a process. It's pretty intangible. And yet we become fixated on the diffused aspects and the components of that construct. So I'm wondering, as we look at it, we're in a program to learn how to help people, instruction, that intersection of instruction and learning. We can more easily define the objectively instruction that we can learning. Is that hindering our ability to actually do what it is we're trying to do, which is improve a process that we don't know a lot about? We know about the results of it and the conditions of it, but there's a gap. So I'm just wondering anybody's thoughts on that.
Christy, you raise your hand. I don't know if can you tackle this?
I can try.
Okay.
I was thinking first about that connection and the cohort that Dr. Bonk had talked about, but I also see that Sue has put in the chat that learning equals a behavior change. And I will tell you that my undergrad was in behavioral psychology. So that is something that I can relate to there. But also the process and using learning to define learning. The one thing that I can say as an instructor myself is I learn as well, and I'm learning from what my students do and what they struggle with and what I can see their strengths in. And for every student, learning is different. And I think even with our definitions that we started with, we all have some similar thoughts, but our definition of learning is different. And it is about our own process. So I don't know if that completely answers Garen's question, but maybe touches on it a little bit.
All right, let's go to Samantha. I think yes, Samantha, if you could please add to the discussion.
Yeah, well, I want to thank you for that question because looking back at my answer, that is really what I was trying to convey, that to me, learning is a process. And I think I even mentioned that that's why it's so important to get students to want to be part of that process. Because if we're going to conceptualize learning as this thing that's not just a thing, right? That's where that connection aspect comes in. That's where we want to bring people in and bridge that gap that you were speaking about. Because yes, we do really think of learning right now in traditional models as this like endpoint rather than this like collaborative thing that two people are working towards. And that's really what a classroom environment is, right? It's the professor and student trying to reach a mutual understanding. And yeah, I hope that made sense.
Of course.
And maybe it's about the phrasing of the word itself. When we talk about learning, it's a process. When we talk about what one has learned, it's a set of skills and competencies or attitudes or whatever we're focusing on there. So it depends on the form of the word that we use to express ourselves, I think. So again, what one has learned, one can reflect on and look at the different skills that one has acquired and look at change in behavior over time. What one is learning is a process. So it depends what we're focusing in on. And both are important. Both are important.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you. Emily, you're next, right? Okay, I just want to make sure I unmute people because apparently I have to do it. Okay, go ahead, Emily.
Yes. No, I kind of, to what everybody else has said, to me, learning is so complex. I don't know if it is easy to put a very defined definition on it. It is very abstract, and I think it also depends on what you're trying to learn, what skill, what knowledge. It is very individualized. As somebody that has a special education background, learning didn't look the same from student to student. And even for one student, the learning in reading or math didn't look the same. And so I think it's important to instill this idea that it's a continuous process. I was actually having this conversation with my own daughter who's in middle school of, it's constantly learning. Everything is evolving. Even me and as an adult who has gone through K-12 education, has an undergrad, master's, pursuing a doctorate, I'm continually learning every day in all aspects of my life. And I think it goes to a person's motivation, the connection, and kind of overall individual needs.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And I see that Jungha has a comment or a question, and then Leah.
Yeah, thank you so much for the great questions and the conversation. I totally also echoing with the Emil's comment, especially we are the lifetime learners. But one thing I want to be pointing out, I think with the COVID-19 all disrupted strategies that we are facing these days, I wonder we can be reflecting on, because so far I feel like in higher education we've been providing instructions and teaching, which is the teaching oriented instead of the learner oriented. Because in the new era, since you need a lot of the different perspective and then different teaching modality, that we need to be providing learner-centered the education. To me, learning is more leading as the educating. Educating means whatever we having one, and then best learning experiences for me is that we can providing to be a best human being as much as possible to this world and to everyone in their community. So not only they're learning about some contents and then those knowledge, which these days a lot of AI can do as assisting as well too, but also they learn how to communicate, how to empathetic to for each other, and what can become the best to be more helpful for everyone. So that's my point. And so I just want to be throwing out some question, ending my comment with the what can we do as instructors to be better providing learner-centered learning environment for our students? Thank you.
Right. Excellent. Excellent points. And Leah, please, you're next.
I think to sort of answer Juna's question, I think a lot of the time we sort of talk about the techniques of teaching and how people learn best, but I think at the end of the day, it also, to circle back, boils down to relationships. When I started my undergrad degree a year ago, it was honestly quite intimidating to walk into lecture halls or to go to office hours to speak with professors who, to be honest, are, top scholars in their field. They've read books that we read in, high school, and we've learned all these things from them. But it can be so challenging to build that meaningful relationship with instructors. And some of the courses where I've learned the most, and some of the professors that I've had that have been the most memorable, are those who simply reach out and say, listen, if you have questions, no matter what they are about the lecture content or something that we've learned, my door is always open. And those are some of the most meaningful conversations where I've actually had the chance to learn something that applies to my everyday life. And so I think at the end of the day, it really comes down to being open to students and being open to listening to them.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you, Leah. Thank you for pointing this out. Yes. Yes, Christy.
I strongly agree with you, Leah, so much so that that is basically the crux of my dissertation. I am looking at online learning environments and how the instructional immediacy, or basically being open, being available, reaching out to students and creating that connection, how that is going to impact the way that they learn, as well as the way that they persist in their classes. I'm at a community college where we have a lot of just diversity in our student body. And so they often need that connection more so than our students that are at university levels, not because of the academic level, but they're usually doing so many other things. So just that extra touch point, that extra connection makes such a difference. And I'm really in the very beginnings of data collection, but I'm already seeing truth to that. So thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And Bo, you're next.
Yeah, I was just going to chime in on that comment as well about the importance of the relationship. I would say the student instructor relationship here. Just even going back to my undergrad work, I remember one instance where I struggled on one of my essays. For this was a children's literature class, and the professor for the course actually had written the book for the class itself. And she was a brilliant individual, but at the same time, it was kind of an intimidating situation. You know, she would lecture in front of the class, and she would say, and on page 34, May says this when she is May. And you know, I got over my fear, and I went into her office hours one time, and we spent about 2 hours just sitting there talking and connecting with one another, and it was great. And you know, the outcome of that was I learned you know, exactly, you know, what she was looking for. She actually helped me improve my essay writing. But to bring this full circle, you know, I still tell my own children, one's a sixth grader and one's a second grader right now, that the more that they can connect with their teachers, the better the learning opportunities that they're going to have, because those connections are going to afford them conversations with their instructors down the road that other students might not have had otherwise. And I love those little just those subtle insights that they get that you know, other people might not have had because they didn't take the opportunity to build those connections.